Hey, welcome back to the Everyday Economics Podcast. This is the podcast that helps you learn about the economic world happening around you every day. I'm Chris Krug, CEO of the 501c3 nonprofit, nonpartisan Franklin News Foundation. Everyday Economics is a production of America's Talking Network, and you can listen to all of our terrific podcasts at americastalking.com. To support Everyday Economics, please make a tax-deductible charitable contribution by clicking the link in the show description. We're recording this episode on Friday, November 15th, and joining me as always, my friend and colleague, Dr. Orphe Divounguy, PhD economist. Dr. O, we've had a number of conversations on the podcast over the past few years about Americans sort of hoping, wishing, waiting for prices to come down, and we have been, I think, pretty stable in our thoughts that they are not going to come down. That like you liked 99-cent eggs, that you're going to have to get into a time machine and go back to 2019 to enjoy them. But every once in a while, the market does show us that basic tenets of supply and demand make for buying opportunities, and one such is around olive oil. There's a terrific story on CNBC today. And the headline of that is world's largest olive oil producer says liquid gold price is on track to halve from record levels. Backstory on this is apparently in Spain, they've had a couple of years of drought prior to this growing season. This season, they have had plenty of rain, and the olive oil crops are abundant, and they are overproducing olive oil, which is going to reduce the price of olive oil. Can we talk a little bit about this and the basic tenets of supply and demand in terms of this fantastic opportunity to be buying olive oil, apparently?
Well, look, on the supply side, of course, you have many factors, right? So you have land, you have where everything it costs to produce the stuff, and of course, there is this, there's always the potential of, crops being destroyed by some climate event. And of course, then you end up with a shortage, and the shortage causes prices to go up. That is a potential. But basically, look, in this story, it's very clear that, you also had suppliers, right? The price paid to farmers had gone up somewhat, but that, there's other factors like supermarkets adding to that price, et cetera, right? But ultimately, the consumers have choices and consumers have options. And so now that the supply of olive oil has kicked up a notch, in an environment where consumers are already starting to kind of adjust their buying habits, right? Remember, they have options. Olive oil is not the only game in town. Then, potentially you could see a price drop. And very much a story of supply and demand here. You get more supply, especially at a time where your consumer habits have changed, and you're likely going to see prices drop. So I love these types of stories, like basic economics. Right now, we're seeing energy prices. Energy prices have been basically solely responsible for the decline in the cooling of headline inflation in the U.S. over the past year. Core inflation has been pretty steady.
Yes.
But energy prices dropping has provided enough downward pressure on headline inflation.
But to be clear about that, that's primarily fossil fuels, right? It's primarily oil here being drilled domestically and certainly globally that's driving these energy prices. This does not have anything to do with wind or solar necessarily, like kind of, catching the gears finally. This is
Well, I mean, that stuff is highly subsidized, right? So we're talking about I mean, I pulled up the table here. We're talking about gasoline down 12% on a year-over-year basis.
Yep.
Fuel oil down 21%. We're not talking about disinflation here. We're talking about prices falling, actually
Correct.
falling, down
Correct.
21% on a year-over-year basis.
So the
Uh,
last time you went to the pump in suburban Seattle, what did you pay? I mean, I'm guessing you're buying premium for that sweet vehicle of
yeah, it's
yours.
way over. It was way over. I remember you filling up my truck cost me about $120. Now I'm filling it up for $100, right? I'm saving
Okay.
$20
Okay.
each trip, so it's nice. It helps your wallet for
In
sure.
the greater Chicago area, in the suburbs, we're seeing gasoline finally under $3 a gallon,
Yeah.
and that's with a significant amount of state and local taxes added to it.
Yes. Yes.
So, I mean, how long, in your estimation, like, we're talking about fuel prices, and this really does matter. I mean, nothing against the cooks out there that like to use olive oil, but I think I use maybe a little bit more gasoline on a monthly basis than I use olive oil. How long do you think these gasoline prices are going to hang around?
It's hard to say, right? So they're kind of controlled by producers, but also it's a global thing, right? With OPEC in the mix, and so you have the question becomes, okay, when are they going to pull back on supply,
Right.
essentially, right? And if you get a pull back, well, then we're in trouble. We're in trouble, and the reason I say we're in trouble is because core inflation's been pretty solid, pretty steady.
Maybe a little bit
Hasn't
different than olive oil. I mean, olives, they're growing. You got to pick them. You got to squeeze them.
Yeah, core inflation's been steady. Um, what we don't want at this point is for headline inflation to come roaring back because energy prices are coming back up, right? Or food prices are accelerating. So yeah, that would not be a good scenario for the U.S. economy right now.
Well, I appreciate your thoughts as always. Great to catch up with you. For Dr. Orphe Divounguy, this has been Chris Krug. Subscribe to Everyday Economics at americastalking.com.